So, Vanessa, if you had to describe it, what is administration?
So, from my point of view and my experience, administration is where you take the time to actually manage and have oversight over a project, a company, or even yourselves. So, when you administer, you are delegating and doling out based on the policies or procedures in the process that have been put in place for whatever it is that you're trying to do, in this case for the church. So, it's a responsibility to make sure that we manage what happens to the congregants, the leadership, the church, and follow the laws of the land.
Got you. So let's talk about an example of that. So let's just say at the fellowship, we're trying to put together integrity, a men's ministry. So how would administration work inside of putting that together?
Yeah, my vision for that would be that, for the men who are leading that particular ministry, we sit down, have a discussion of what you really want, how you want to reach those men. What type of program do you want to put forward for them to participate in, and deal with some of the details and the nuances that would make the ministry great. I know that some people think marketing, advertising, and bringing some of it, the corporate thought into it um, can take it away from biblical principles. But when you're trying to reach people, it's good to understand the psychology of what it takes to get them through the doors. And so that's what, as an administrator, that's what I would be looking at, is more of a high level value, not necessarily, what is set in the Bible for being fishers of men.
Yeah, I speak like Babalese. So, that's just how I grew up, since I was so young in it. So let me make sure I'm understanding you. So administration is like how we bring practice or practicality to vision. Is that what you're
Mhm.
saying?
Absolutely. And programmatically. I mean, so it was kind of easier back when we were growing up in the church,
Mhm.
because it was a practice that you went to church on Sunday, you went to Bible study on Tuesday or Wednesday, you did
Mhm.
choir rehearsal, you did YPHA, you did all the things.
Mhm.
But that's not necessarily the case now.
Mhm.
It's a little bit different. COVID changed a lot of how we interact. And so we have to think just a little bit differently. The old hymns to bring the people in are great and nostalgic, but it's not necessarily how that would work right now.
Gotcha. Interesting. Very interesting. So how do we apply that to churches?
The administration, how do we
Yeah.
apply administration to the churches?
Yeah. How would you I guess you kind of answered it just now, but well, how do we get churches to see the value of real administration, not just somebody like, hey, take some notes, hey, send
Mhm.
out this and or hey, put this on the calendar, but real administration, someone with a gift of administration at work inside of a ministry. How do we get them to make that a bigger space in the body?
So it might ruffle little feathers, but
It's all right.
uh,
They'll be all right.
so everybody has to respect everybody across the board and the roles that they've been brought into the church to do. And if I am the person that, has been recognized with the skill set to administer, then that's that's my role. And
Mhm.
everybody from the top down should have respect for that role. The
Mhm.
same way that I should have respect for the pastor, for the first lady, for the minister of music, so on and so forth. Um, Administration should be the same. And unfortunately, because I think that a lot of the administrative roles were by um you know, people who were who were doing pastor's aid and things of that nature, they weren't really in a position to make decisions and
Hmm.
to govern appropriately. It
Hmm.
was always looked to the pastor to do that. And I just think that that's an burdening, of the pastor to have to love the people, study the word, fix the problems, do the counsel, listen to God, adhere to the vision. If he has a family, his deal with his family, and then the families of the leadership. It's a lot. It's a
Hmm.
whole lot, and so I think that being able to help people understand that you don't have to do it alone, it's not you by yourself. You can delegate some of these governing and authoritative things over to someone else that has the same vision as you for the church and for the ministry, and not fear that someone is going to try to take something from you, because if God has ordained it for you, no one can take it away. They might try to mess it up. We definitely know about that. But they can't take it away from you.
So, if I'm hearing you right, you're saying people that are gifted, because let me go back. And when I said Bibleese, I understand Bibleese. What I was trying to get at is that when I read Paul's writings to the church at Corinth, he says, um, as far as operations is
Mhm.
God, the differences of administrations, Christ, and then diversities of the Spirit are the gifts of the Spirit, those types of things, the Holy Ghost. So it's
Right,
like they're three, they're one, they got this perfect relationship and how they work together. They don't step on each other's toes.
right.
Christ is going to offer up the kingdom back to the Father. The Holy Spirit is always going to represent and remind us of what Christ has said and how to walk out. So it seems like you're saying to me, with the practical piece, that administration helps us to work out the vision.
Absolutely. Absolutely. W- when in the Bible where it says write the vision and make it plain,
Mm-hmm.
it didn't stop there.
Mm.
It had to go forth to someone, even
So
if
that's
it's to
because
yourself.
somebody got to read it.
Somebody's got to read it. And somebody has to break it down into
Uh-oh.
manageable tasks and deliverables in order to reach the end goal. And sometimes it ends up being you. But in this case, in the case of the church, it
Mm-hmm.
doesn't have to be just you alone. There are people who are brought to you who have the skill set to be able to do it. And a lot of times, because it's our baby, because, God impregnated us with the vision and with the dream.
Mm-hmm.
We are afraid to hand that child off to someone else to, do some of the soft skills
Yeah.
to help it learn or how to function in society. And we know that people who tend to, helicopter over real children,
Mm-hmm.
sometimes children have maladjustment because
Mm-hmm.
they haven't been socialized, they haven't gone through
Mm-hmm.
nuanced details, and um they haven't had the opportunity to explore and dream big.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what a true administrator is going to do, is going to dream big for the organization, and also be able to look at where we are right now and say, look, pastor, I know you want to go out and buy this building or something like that, but let's look at the real brass tacks of what that means for the
Mm-hmm.
organization, and give you some guidelines around what that vision is. It's not stop it. It's not to be an obstacle. It's just to provide some guidance that, you're not overextending yourself. You're not, pushing the congregation too hard. Maybe even pushing the leadership outside of the confines of how the church can operate effectively and efficiently.
Yeah, you made me think about how the early apostles were like, um, we recognize that, wow, this is powerful. Like the daily administration of the church, some of these things are not getting done, and the widows are not being taken care of.
Right.
So let's pick out 7 men that are going to serve, and that's where we first get deacons or
Hmm.
diaconia or people that are called to serve in that sense. And
Right.
so that would be that would be a practical outworking, because they were saying it's not fit for us to lead the word in prayer and be over here trying to make sure the widows are taken care of. We
Right.
got things to do. It's not like we got bigger fish to fry. It's just our part in the mission is this.
Hmm.
So other people that have their parts, let them play their parts as well.
Absolutely. And I think that, it's no, I know that when people are appointed to deacon, deaconess, they are elated about the growth or the rise in ranking within the church. But I don't think that enough take into true consideration of
Mhm.
what a deacon or deaconess is, because they are a trustee for, lack of a better term. And in regular law, in the law of the land, a
Mhm.
trustee has a fiduciary responsibility to make sure
Mhm.
that the church remains solvent at all times. And sometimes people get caught up in the title and don't get caught up in the actual tasks. You know
Yeah.
what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so that's why we see so many storefront churches, corner front churches, and things like that. They look like they're about to fall over because there's no true administration that's being put forward.
Mhm.
And if that's your humble beginnings, that's okay. But that should not be your humble beginnings, your humble middle, and stretching out into your humble end, because it's just you and two people sitting in in the congregation. So
I ain't
it's
never heard that. Humble beginnings, humble middle,
I'm just saying.
humble ending. Wait a moment, I'm gonna call your mom.
Right. Right.
Yeah. So let me tell you what I did the other day. I was trying to catch up with my mom, so I gave her a call, no answer, right? So I'm at the store buying me some hot dogs, and the lady was calling me to come get my hot dogs, and I was trying to call my mom, and I said, "Hey, I was trying to leave my mom a message. You calling me to get these hot dogs?" I said, "She's not answering the phone," and the lady said, "Well, go over there and see her anyway."
Mm-hmm.
So I drove out to my mom's place. She wasn't home. I think she was at prayer or something like that. And so I decided to ride around South Rocky Mountain a little bit, places that I used to kind of circulate in and see what was
Okay.
going on in some of those old churches and the dilapidation in this city.
Mm-hmm.
Houses broken down. You have a house, and then a house beside it burned down 10 years ago is still there.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? I'm like, but these churches have taken up money and taken up funds and cast so much vision, but that vision never made it to the community. So this is my last question for you.
Right.
Uh, how does administration impact communities? Correlate that with what happens in the church and how it leaks over, spills over into the
Okay.
community.
So I need to paint this picture real quick before
Okay.
I can make that correlation. Um, and I'll use Starbucks because that's a popular,
Mhm.
place. Um, People think Starbucks is a coffee company.
Mm.
but it's a real estate company. And I try to explain to, entrepreneurs and business people, these larger business, these larger corporations, their product is not actually what they're invested in.
Mm.
They're invested in the community that their building sits in.
Mm.
So I can go to Starbucks right now, and if I want to start a composting crew to go to all Starbucks, I can go to Starbucks now and say, "Hey, we're community members. We would like your coffee grind so that we can start composting, and your coffee grinds will help start that up." And they'll be like, "Yeah, here, sure." And they don't have to go to the headquarters to make that decision. They can make that decision where they are.
Mm.
Let's bring that back to the church. A lot of times the church is invested in being a church, but they're not invested in where they are.
Mm.
And so it's important that we understand not only the congregation, but the real estate that the congregation lives in. So why are we not looking at, okay, if we have this zip code that we're working in, right? Why are we not looking at, okay, there's a half a lot over here, there's a half an acre over there, there's a house that's been abandoned for the past year that we've been here, and there's this, that, and that. We're pointing these things out. We're putting them on in a document, writing them down, or having discussion about it. And what we come back to the congregants and say, look, there's about 3 acres and three separate paces that we think that we want to acquire. And what would be the purpose of that? Well, half a lot could be used to grow produce for the church. Another half could be if you have truckers in the congregation who need to park their truck somewhere instead of on the street. Maybe they can park it there. Um, Maybe the house that has been dilapidated, everybody can Habitat for Humanity that house so that someone who's living in a poor situation or nothing at all can have a place to stay for the first 6 months or something like that. And I look at, what Joel Osteen's father did for, his area. And there's no reason why churches can't come together or individually, come and help clean up certain areas. And that's how it leaks out, is the love of God inside when people come through, and then it inspires them and empowers them to want to go out and spread that, whether it's mowing the lawns for the elderly, helping the disabled get to medical appointments. That leaks out into the community. And that's what administration should be for the church, is how can we get those things done? And what does it look like for our congregants if we do? And the community if we do? And that's how I see it, being able to spread out and network out with true administration.
Right. Because for me, vision has to be attached to people.
Mm-hmm.
We're not just out here preaching for our health. It's got to be attached to people. So if there's a practical way that we can walk that out, and God gives people to be administrators that are gifted to come in and help with that, then I think we should make that happen and make that so. So I'm looking forward to a powerful 2025 at Epic. Thank you for doing your part as the administrator. And for those of you that would like to reach out to Vee, just hit her up at thrive@epicfc.org. She'll holler back at you, I'm sure. Vee, thank you for your time. I really appreciate it.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me. It's been the first time since I've come to the forefront.
Okay, here we go. You like to hide in the back, we're gonna bring you on up to the front.
Right. I'm in the back administrating. I'm good.